Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Muhammadin wa ala ahli wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just a short khatira about leadership in Islam. We see so many things happening in the Muslim world with leaders falling and leaders taking power. And in our religion, there are rules for being a leader and characteristics and conditions, which unfortunately not many of the leaders are following. So we look to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ always as the example, and the Sahaba and the Khulafa al-Rashideen for the qualities of leadership. So just a few points. Leadership is a trust and amana. The Prophet ﷺ said the leader of a people is in their service. So not the other way around that happens so many times nowadays, that the people are in the service of the leader. But here the Prophet ﷺ is telling us in this hadith that the leader of a people is in their service. So the leader is supposed to serve the people. This means that they must be accountable for their people. They lead and fulfill their obligations as well. So a leader also has to be accountable and open to criticism. And we know the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, the best jihad actually is the person who is willing and able to stand up in front of an unjust leader and admonish him and tell him and help correct him so that he can be a better leader. Leaders should also be humble, honest, trustworthy, in addition to being open to criticism. So we know the Prophet ﷺ was always open to any suggestions, and the Khulafa al-Rashideen, anybody could stand up in any of the gatherings and bring up a point, and it would be listened to with openness and fairness. Leaders should be forgiving and patient. So the Quran tells us that leaders should be forgiving and patient with their followers even when they make mistakes. And we see this in an ayah in the Quran, specifically to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, telling him that if you were harsh, people would have gone away from you, but by being merciful, they will be closer to you. Leaders should be decisive and firm. So once they make their decisions, they should be stuck on that path and follow it unless some new information comes for them to change their mind. So not everyone can be a leader. Some people are able to make these decisions and others are not. Leaders should consult with their followers. So they should seek advice from their followers. We know this in the example of the Shura, that the Prophet ﷺ and the Khulafa would ask the people around them for their opinion, because their opinion wasn't the only one. And as we know, the saying, 2 heads are better than 1. So by bringing in different opinions, you can have the best decision. Leaders should be compassionate and merciful. The Prophet ﷺ said, those who are merciful will be shown mercy by the most merciful. And so it is said that if there is a decision and judgment, and you had to err on the point of being merciful rather than being harsh, that if you're not sure, you should be erring on the side of being merciful rather than being, and if you make a mistake by being merciful, that's better than making a mistake by being too harsh, such as deciding something in a court of law. Leaders are supposed to be just and fair, not only for the Muslims, but also for the non-Muslims as well. And so we would see that during the times of the Khulafa and other great leaders like Salah ad-Din, even the non-Muslims would go to them for judgment. And the leader would be willing to make a judgment in fairness and something that was just, even if it was against the Muslims themselves. And leaders should be devoted to serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Devoted to serving Allah means they should have the characteristics of Islam and following the 5 pillars. So one narration that the leader at minimum should be performing prayer. And if they're not performing prayer, then you don't need to follow them. So following the 5 daily prayers, like again, Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi, one of his characteristics is that he was very insistent that himself, as well as his followers and the military, would carry out their 5 daily prayers. And we saw this with the example of the Prophet ﷺ as well. And how many of the leaders today make sure and establish prayer rather than shutting down masajid and not allowing the adhan to be called, for example, versus leading the prayer themselves and following the prayers themselves as well. And again, the example of the Khulafa Rashidin and the Prophet ﷺ, 2 quick examples. The Prophet ﷺ, there was a noise in Medina, a very loud noise that they heard in the middle of the night. And the Sahaba got up to go and see what was going on because they were afraid someone was going to attack them. And they found the Prophet ﷺ coming back with his shield and with his sword. He had already gone out and checked it and made sure that there was no danger. So leading by example. And then the story of Umar radiallahu anh, when he was leading the prayer and he was stabbed, what was the first thing he said? He said, "Who is it that stabbed me? Did I do something that was harmful to him or that I was wronged him?" So his first thought, not that he was stabbed and he was, that he was very injured. His first thought, did I make a mistake? Did I do something wrong as a leader that I did not help whoever this person was, and that he had the justification to do this to me? So may Allah raise leaders amongst us, both in our community and in the Muslim world in general, that can help lead us properly amongst the Muslims as well as the non-Muslims. Jazakumullah khair.